You are probably wondering how it happened. I have a gun and a broken gun. If so, just watch this video to the end. And maybe it will help you not to make the mistakes I did. Hello everyone, this is the Written Week speaking and my name is Eleon. And today we will talk about the Valentino's gun from Hazbin Hotel. First of all, I didn't make this gun for myself, it's a commission. Yes, I don't plan to do a Valentino cosplay. I'm making a velvet costume for myself, but I'll tell you about this in next videos. But for now, let's talk about the gun. In general, this project seemed interesting to me because I found only one 3D model of this gun, and I decided to make my own model of this gun and post it for you on CG Trader, link in the description. And as a reference, I used this official art. Unfortunately, I don't have many recordings of the process, but you can look at those. The modeling process took me 2 evenings and I think I made it pretty quickly. And finished gun looks like this. I decided to make this Valentino inscription with rhinestones, without a 3D printer. But I made these rhinestones in Blender because I wanna use it as a reference. Then all parts went to a slicer, a program that prepares models for printing. In general, there are many slicers, but I use Lychee because it's more than enough for my models. I printed all the models in 4 parts, and the most difficult was printing the handle, because it required a lot of supports. If you are interested, I use this printer and this resin. Yes, I prefer working with water washable resins, and this model I printed for a very long time, 12 to 50 hours for each launch. But after these hours of printing comes my favorite moment, when I remove the printer hood and see the freshly printed model. For me, this is some kind of magic every time, and I'm simply delighted when a model comes from a computer into a 3D object. And now I'll also tell you about mistakes. First, I placed 2 thin and long models close to each other, and of course they stuck together. Overall, it wasn't very critical. They deformed slightly while printed, but I didn't recommend you to do that. And also I made very bad supports for these small hearts, and of course they printed with deformations, so they also had to be redone. In general, the entire printing process took me a couple of days. The printer worked around the clock, and soon it was possible to move on the next step. And now a little about how I processed my models after printing. First of all, I washed them. This one underwater because the resin is water washable, but I don't recommend you to do this without gloves. And then I separate models from the supports using nippers and remains of supports I remove using this device, and the model looks like this. And naturally it still needs to be sanded, but before that I dry my model with UV light. I sand my models with sandpaper and sometimes with my old nail. It's really very convenient. And I sand not only the remains of the supports. Also, the printer has a very high resolution. In some places the layers are clearly visible, and I also sand these places. And I advise you to do the same, because this way the model starts to look much more better. Well, after sanding, I wash my models to remove the dust, and then for this model I glued the trigger and small rod to the main part of the gun. And now it's time for priming. Previously I used this primer in a can, but then I switched to airbrush primer, and I tell you honestly, it's much more better. So if you haven't tried yet, give it a try. And after priming, we could move to the most interesting part: painting. For my models, I usually use this set of paints, but this time I had to order additional. On the Army Painter website, I ordered 2 additional paints, pink and yellow. These paints worked well, and I had no problems with it. And to carefully paint the handle, I used a liquid mask. I applied it to the areas that should be protected, and then painted the handle. And after that, it was very easy to remove liquid mask. And I also painted the other parts without any problems. And by the way, for the black parts, I didn't use black paint. I use black primer, and I painted the black strips with black acrylic paint. Well, here is a little life hack to paint small pieces. Just use a glue gun. I glued a wooden stick to back sides of my hearts. Then I take this stick and paint hearts without any problems. In general, at this point, the entire gun was completely painted, and it was possible to glue some of its parts. I'll tell you a little about this too. For the better result, I tear off some of the paint and primer in places where I'll be dropped glue. I just had an experience when the seams came apart, because the paint and primer just came off the model along with the glue at the gluing point. So maybe this advice will be useful for you too. By the way, on the hearts I got not very even transition between pink and yellow, and I decided to cover it with rhinestones. Why not? Cause it made gun to look much more interesting. And to make the rhinestones to stick better, I covered them with my top coat. It also added shine to them, and the painted gun looked something like this. And I forgot to mention, after painting, I fix all parts with my varnish, and I'm using this one now. And now we can move to the very interesting part, to rhinestones. Yes. Very soon I will tell you why one of the gun barrels turned out to be broken. But for now, a little about rhinestones. First, it was necessary to choose the diameter of rhinestones, and I tried a lot of different ones. I chose 2 mm diameter because they seemed the most suitable. Next, I need to make markings on my barrel, and for this I use this tape. Usually it's used for painting, but for my purpose it was useful too. And with this tape I made markings. And I strongly don't recommend you to use the transparent tape, for example. It's very easy to tear off the paint with this tape. I checked. And rhinestones I glued with this glue. And before I scraped off the unnecessary paint, and only then applied the glue and placed the rhinestones. And after that I dried it with UV light. And yes, I glued all rhinestones this way. But there was a little nuance. Just look at the final version. Don't you see any problems? Yes. I missed one letter, and well, naturally I tried to fix it. First, I picked off the rhinestones. It was really difficult, but I was convinced that the glue worked well. Then I tried to sand the surface, re-priming and re-painting, but I got a very bad result. After such a restoration, many defects remained. And yes, I was very upset. And what do you think I did? Well, of course, I smashed the barrel right on the table. Well, the next day I reprinted and repainted this gun. And of course, glued all these rhinestones again. And this is the final photos I got. And I really hope that I can show you this gun with my friend's cosplay very soon. Finally, I remind you about CG Trader, where you can buy the model, and about subscribing to this channel. Thank you all for your attention, and bye bye!